bad. It's just a shooter. Then there was Mighty Bomb Jack. And total side story, I remember playing the arcade version of Mighty Bomb Jack as a kid. Was really excited to get it for the NES, and the NES version ended up being completely different. But I did still enjoy it as a kid. Looking at it now, though, oof, it's alright. And then, last but not least, definitely not least, they released Metroid for the NES library for the Nintendo Switch Online service. So that is a good one. There is a good one, but people still aren't happy, and I don't blame them. Here are some of the comments they're receiving under their.
Huh.
November Games Updates video on YouTube. Dude, we want Virtual Console. Like if you agree. Sawyer Hicks, it's simple. I see Nintendo Switch Online in the title and I have to click dislike. Another comment says, more old garbage. Virtual Console is what we want. So as you're seeing, people aren't happy with the Nintendo Switch Online service, and they'd rather have a Virtual Console instead of having these games trickle out from Nintendo once a month. And you know what? I agree with them. I don't understand. I do understand what Nintendo's doing. They want to have a service, and they want to incentivize you to keep paying for the service by trickling out these games, but people aren't falling for it. They think it's annoying, and they rather have the a la carte Virtual Console where they could buy whatever damn game they wanted to anytime they wanted to, than have games released this way, which I think sucks as well. But it gets even better. The same day, yesterday, Nintendo released a Nintendo Switch Online overview trailer, and things aren't looking good there either. It has 9.5 thousand dislikes, 5.2 likes, and the comments there are equally as delicious. And this is what people had to say. Dear Nintendo, I will dislike these videos until you guys pay for dedicated servers in games like Splatoon 2 and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I totally agree with him. What the hell is the point of paying for a service if it does not improve the quality of online play? Another person wrote, really Nintendo, you still pushing this NES games? We need more features for the online. Where the heck is the native voice chat? Where is the messaging system? Where is the N64, SNES, GBA, Game Boy, Nintendo GameCube games on the Switch? Again, I totally agree with this person. And last but not least, and this person receives the Otage of the Year award when a console from 2007 did online better. And they're talking about the Nintendo Wii with the Virtual Console, and they are 100% right. That was the ultimate roast right there. Now, oh gee, if you pay the $20 a year for Nintendo Switch Online, which yes, is a good deal for an online service, even though the online service from Nintendo sucks, or you could pay for the family plan for $34.99, which lets 8 people play online, you'll get these crumbs of NES games once in a while. These old games, ooh, whoop-de-doo. Now let's look at the games that Sony offered with PlayStation Plus this past September. Now, I understand every month is hit or miss with games with gold and PlayStation Plus. Sometimes they offer great games, sometimes the games they offer suck. But in comparison, this is from September of this year, let's see what Sony offered, okay? Destiny 2, God of War 3 Remastered. They offered a PSVR game, Here They Lie, Another World for the PS3, PS4, and Vita, Cube for the PS3, PS4, Foul Play for the PS4 and Vita, and Sparkle 2 for the PS4 and Vita. So they offered a whole slew of games and 2 AAA games. Yes, they're older, and yes, you can get Destiny 2 Forsaken now with all the other DLC and crap like that. And God of War 3 Remastered came out years ago, but they're like AAA games. They're full-fledged games. They're not old NES games or Sega Genesis games that people have played 6,000 times in 6,000 different ways, Nintendo. How do you have services out there like PSN and Xbox Live, which basically set up the blueprint for you, Nintendo, on how to set up an online service, and you still screwed it up? You are so brilliant and so innovative sometimes, Nintendo. The Switch still may be my favorite console of all time. Of all time, and I'm a grown man. You know, I'm looking past the nostalgia glasses I have with the SNES and Sega Genesis and Nintendo Entertainment System. I still may like the Switch better than those systems, okay? But there's this, sometimes you're brilliant and sometimes you're just foolish. You had two companies saying, here, Nintendo, this is how you do an online pay-for service. This is how you do it well. And you still screwed it up. And I don't care that your service is cheaper. I don't care that you can only spend $35 a year and have the service for 8 different people in a house. It doesn't matter if it sucks. Oh great, it's cheaper, but it's still crap. You're not offering dedicated servers. If you want to actually communicate with people online, you have to hook up your damn smartphone. Why do I have to talk through this to talk to people while I'm playing Splatoon? Why? What are you doing? And old games are not going to satisfy people. People want the virtual console back so they can buy whatever damn games they want to. Those old NES games are not... I understand you're trying to trickle them out to keep people paying for the service so they can keep on getting the new games and playing those old NES games. But Nintendo, that's not enough to incentivize people to keep paying for Nintendo Switch Online. It's not. I'm telling you it's not. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who just want the single-player experiences a lot of your AAA first-party games offer. And in the future just maybe like, I don't care about the NES games. I don't care about playing online. I'm not going to continue the service. Why don't you give Nintendo, even with how cheap your service is, why don't you do the games like Games with Gold is doing and what PlayStation Plus is doing? Hey, Halloween just passed. Why don't you give people, as long as they keep paying for Nintendo Switch Online, where they could download Outlast? Outlast, it's amazing how well that game runs. Outlast 1 and 2 run amazing and look great on the Switch. It's amazing how they made those games look as good as they did in the Switch. Offer one of those games. Offer a Resident Evil game. You have the Revelations games in there. Offer one of them. And let people download it and keep it so long as they keep paying for the service. That's what people want. They don't just want... I'm not saying they're crappy. Let me not use the word crappy. Those just NES games. That's not going to hold people over, man. It's not. And even just SNES games and N64 games, people want beyond that. Give people the older AAA games like Microsoft and Sony do as well. Even if you have to up the price of the yearly subscription for Nintendo Switch Online. Also offer dedicated servers for competitive games like Smash and like Splatoon. People will love you for it and they will throw their damn money at you. Okay? So 3 things. Offer older AAA games that people could download and keep so long as they keep paying for the service. Offer better voice chat. No voice chat through the phone. And offer dedicated servers for your games. You have 2 companies which showed you what to do, and you're still screwed up, Nintendo. Pay attention, open your eyes, get out of your shell, and do online right if you want the Switch to remain relevant. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one. Hey, congratulations! If you made it to the end of the video, you should subscribe to Review Tech USA so you can hear me blabber on some more. Also, too, starting this month, I will be live streaming solely on Twitch. I'll have a link to my Twitch channel below in the description. And last but not least, make sure you click that
I see that people are in here. I'm just like chilling because I can't sleep. I tried playing Mario earlier, but yeah, I don't know. I'm being lazy. I also love his videos. What is this about?
Walmart is getting into the PC gaming business with their own line of gaming laptops and desktops, and I have to say, they don't suck. Let's take a look at them. Skip it up and that up. So yeah, you heard me right. Walmart is selling their own line of gaming laptops and PCs, and they're called Overpowered. And they teamed up with Esports Arena to make this hardware happen. And minus one laptop, the specs on the laptops and desktops are pretty damn good, and the prices that they're asking are very, very competitive. And we're going to go through them now, discuss each one, and I'll tell you what I think. Now, the entry-level laptop that Walmart is offering, I'm not too thrilled with. It's called the Overpowering Gaming Laptop 15. And there's some things I like about it and some I don't. Honestly, I would pass on this one if I was in the market for a gaming laptop. It has 144 hertz 1080p screen. That's cool. Not complaining about that. Has a quad-core i5 8300 with 4 cores and 8 threads. Around this price point, honestly, you could get Intel's i7 8750H, which is a 6-core 12-thread chip. So that's not really super exciting. Has an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050, which that's also disappointing. That if you want to, even esports games are going to have a tough time, getting to that 144 FPS range where you can enjoy that high refresh rate screen. Mechanical LED keyboard, 128 gigabyte SSD with a terabyte of storage. That's nice. There's sometimes mid-range upper-end laptops don't actually offer an SSD and storage. 8 gigabytes of RAM. I've seen laptops for cheaper than this that have 16 gigabytes of DDR4 and Windows 10. This isn't a terrible deal, but it's not great. For $1,000, you could do a hell of a lot better. So let's move on because things get better from here on out when it comes to this overpowered line of gaming laptops and desktops that Walmart sells. Now, here is where things start to get sexy. For $1,400, you could get the overpowered gaming laptop 15 Plus. The specs on this one are nice for the price. You get 144 hertz 1080p screen again, Intel i7 8750H, 6-core CPU with 12 threads. I actually have a gigabyte laptop with that processor, and it is absolutely amazing. They have an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060 in here, the 6 gigabyte version, not the 3 gigabyte version, which for this price point is really damn good. Mechanical keyboard, 256 gigabyte SSD for the operating system, and a terabyte of storage. That's, again, a really good deal. 16 gigs of RAM as opposed to 8, and Windows 10. Now, for $1,400, I think that's a hell of a deal. I think that's very competitive. And what you're getting the high refresh rate screen. You're getting the 6-core processor, which is a beast at video editing, even 4K video editing. I've used that chip quite a bit for 4K video editing. And you're getting a decent amount of RAM and storage. $1,400 is a really, really competitive price. It's very impressive. Now let's take a look at their top of the line gaming laptop. Now, this is the top of the line overpowered gaming laptop with a 17-inch screen. This is the OP Gaming Laptop 17 Plus. Again, you're getting 144 hertz 1080p screen, the i7 8750H, which even at this price point, that's pretty much par for the course what kind of chip you're going to get, and it's great. It is a great productivity chip and gaming chip, that 6-core i7. You're getting NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060, 6 gigabyte, which is fairly competitive. I have seen laptops at this price point give you a 1070, but that's a great GPU, and you'll be able to do plenty of gaming with that, even at high settings and ultra settings, and get really good frame rates. Mechanical LED keyboard, but this is where I think for $1,700 this thing becomes a steal. You're getting a 256 gigabyte SSD for the operating system, which is plenty of storage just for the operating system, a 2 terabyte mechanical drive, and 32 gigabytes of RAM. Even beyond gaming, this is a great deal for productivity. If you're looking to do Photoshop, video editing, you name it, for $1,700 with those specs, I would have liked to see a 1070, but I'm okay. I don't think it's a deal breaker with the 6 gig 1060 graphics card in here. I would be snatching that up. Honestly, if I needed a laptop, which I don't, so I'm not going to get it, but if I was in the market, I would probably give this a shot and purchase it and pre-order it now. Now, again, I just want to say I am not sponsored by Walmart, and I don't even have an affiliate link. I'll have a link to these, but I don't make a dime off of them if you click on it. So this is just me being objective and giving my opinion on this new line of gaming hardware from Walmart.
I messaged you earlier, but I figured you were dead because I was pretty dead too.
Things are still impressive there too. Now, even their entry-level gaming desktop is pretty damn awesome. The overpowered gaming desktop DTW1 has a 6-core i7 8700 in there, which does go toe-to-toe if you look at Cinebench scores with even the Ryzen 7 2700X at stock speeds. Again, I would actually still go for, if I was building my own desktop, to get the 2700X from Ryzen or from AMD, because it just has 2 extra physical cores.
Yeah, I just couldn't
the
sleep.
more physical cores, the better. But this is
I
still
went to bed at like 8 o'clock.
a gaming and
I woke
productivity
up at
beast.
like
That
1:30.
6-core i7. You're getting an
Or
NVIDIA
something
GeForce
like that.
GTX 1070, which is not only a great 1080p card, you can even do 1440p and 4K gaming on there at pretty
As
damn
late as
high
we
settings.
stayed up,
I
I'm
love
pretty
the
sure you were
1070.
dead
I think it's a hell of a bargain
yesterday.
even to this day. 256 gigabyte SSD, 2 terabytes of storage, and 16 gigabytes of RAM for $1,400. I think that's a hell of a configuration. I think it's a really competitive price. And again, if you need a desktop and you don't want to build your own, that's not a bad deal, man. That's really not. So, and again, things get better from here on out. I think the pricing of the other 2 desktops I'm going to show you are very competitive as well. Now, if you go up to $1,899, which I actually think is a good deal too, you're stepping up a lot of things here. You're still getting the i7-8700, which for both gaming and productivity is fine. You will be able to do 4K video editing without breaking a sweat on that 6-core chip from Intel. But now you're going to get a GeForce GTX 1080, which will give you better gaming performance. You'll be able to do more 4K gaming. And
I could imagine. I don't know how you made it through.
The 1070 is great. 1080 obviously is a more
I've
powerful
done it before
GPU.
too.
You're getting double the SSD storage. You go from 256 on the lower end desktop now up to 512 gigabytes SSD, which is great. I still think 256 gigabytes for an SSD just to store your operating system is more than enough, because both of these desktops offer a 2 terabyte hard drive. Now you're going up to 32 gigabytes of RAM, which for productivity is awesome. And again, Windows 10 you get for $1,900, man. That's still a good deal. It's still a good deal. I mean, okay, we could argue. I want to see a
You've caught me being lazy on my stream. I haven't done this in a while though.
An 8-core Ryzen 7 2700X in there. Who knows? But the specs are here. I would be happy with. You'll
It's very
be able
early
to do
here,
gaming
like
and
5:30.
video editing and Photoshop, no problem. And for sub $2,000 before taxes, again, that's really competitive. These PCs from Walmart, this overpowered line, does not suck. Now let's look at the creme de la creme, the top of the line.
I feel like this is comfy.
Desktop that they offer, and let's take a look at that. Now it
That's
seems like the
why I'm
only thing you're
streaming
gaining
this.
here, again, you're getting
I'm just
the
trying to catch
6-core
up on these
i7
videos. I
8700,
was like,
6-core
the stream's
small
already
threads.
on.
Here you get the 1080 Ti, which is a 4K gaming beast.
I wish I had some
Until it went
coffee
out
right now.
released
We
from
don't
cutting edge gamer. The
have a
RTX
coffee
2080
maker, I
from
think.
NVIDIA, that was the
If we do,
graphics
it's
card I had in my computer.
not
It's
set
still
up.
amazing. I mean, the only thing you're missing out on that is the fact that you can't do the ray tracing crap. Actually, I think the 1080 Ti in general actually outperforms in many cases the new RTX 2080, or at least they go toe-to-toe from what I've seen. Again, you're going to get a 512 gigabyte SSD for the operating system, 2 terabytes of storage, plenty all around, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and Windows 10. Really, the only thing you're getting here is the better graphics with the 10. They're going from the 1080 to the 1080 Ti. Again, that price point is pretty damn good. Maybe it's not as competitive I would like to see. I would like to see maybe a 9900K in there, a true 8-core chip in there. But you will, if you purchase this right now, not only is that price to me satisfactory, it's a decent price, you'll be happy with the performance.
That's around how much my PC costs when I built it 2 years ago.
Well done, Walmart.
I don't have
Well
32
this line
gigabytes of RAM. I only have 1
they seem like
terabyte.
a hell of a deal. Minus that entry-level laptop, I would avoid that. I think that's overpriced. I think it's time for people, even if you have no interest in PC gaming, I'm not trying to sell you on it. Look, I own consoles too. Play whatever the hell you want to play on. But numbers don't lie. And for everyone who says that PC gaming is irrelevant, I got bad news for you. In the year 2017, PC gaming made up 28% of the revenue worldwide. Console gaming made up 29% of the revenue worldwide. PC gaming is its only platform. It's one platform. That 29% of console gaming is combining all the platforms. The Switch, the PS4, the Xbox One. So PC by itself was only 1% away from having the same amount of revenue as console gaming. And then you had mobile gaming, which made up 43% because as much as we may hate it, mobile gaming is making a killing worldwide. Microtransactions, when it comes to mobile gaming, are a cash cow. But PC gaming is bringing in billions upon billions of dollars
2K.
each year.
It was 2 years ago.
Everyone who still to this day says that PC gaming is dying, the numbers don't lie. I got bad news for you. It sure as hell isn't. It's very relevant.
Parts,
and when you see these competitive PCs coming from Walmart
as far as being
for these prices, that just is more proof. Look, Walmart got into this business or got into the PC gaming business because they see there's money there to be made. If they didn't think there was money there to be made, they aren't offering these PCs, these gaming PCs at these prices out of the kindness of their heart. They're offering them because they know there's a demand there and they want to fill that demand to make money. So PC gaming, man, you could dislike it. You may have no interest in it, but it's making a ton of money and it is a very relevant platform. The other thing I'm liking to see too is that there was a time where going with a pre-built PC was absolutely ludicrous. It was like it would be insanely more expensive than building your own. Now, that's still true to a degree. It's still cheaper to build your own PC. But I can't say anymore that to people. They're like, Rich, I want to get into PC gaming, but I don't want to build my own rig. I'd rather go pre-built. Do you think it's that much of a ripoff? And
yeah, the build that I think you went off the build that I sent you. Yeah, that's pretty good for that. Starting to lag behind. I'm not really all about being up to date as long as my computer can do what I need it to do. That's all I really care about. I'll probably upgrade something another year or so.
I can't say that it is anymore. I
yeah,
really
with retro
can't.
And console
now, the quality control of these overpowered PCs, we're going to have to
deal
wait
as long as you can stream.
I don't know. I haven't used one. Maybe they're built excellent. Maybe they're built like crap. We'll have to find out.
Yeah, same here.
But if they're built well,
I think the most intensive game I play is like World of Warcraft. And I don't even really play that often anymore.
I mean, those desktops and those laptops minus the entry-level one, I would definitely consider. And you may save a couple $100 building your own, maybe $300, but it's not going to be a huge price difference. Like even 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been, God, get a pre-built 4 or 5 years ago compared to building your own, would have been $500, $600 plus bucks more. So yeah, it's a good time to be a PC gamer. And if you're not a PC gamer, it's a good time to give it a shot. And if you have no interest in it, again, you can't say that PC gaming is irrelevant because the numbers show that it definitely is relevant. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one. Hey, congrats.
What else is happening in the video game world? What's going on with
this video is being brought to you by Cutting Edge Gamer. If you upgrade graphics cards often, Cutting Edge Gamer is the perfect option for you. Lease the newest graphics cards on the market, such as Nvidia's RTX 20 series for a low monthly payment. Click the affiliate link below in the description to find out more. Skip it up and that up.
Yeah, I think I upgrade my like peripherals more than I do my actual computer.
About sales numbers of consoles because I've beaten it to death. Like, I have made probably 8 billion videos saying, oh, the Nintendo Switch is selling well. Guess what? The Nintendo Switch is selling well. Oh, the Nintendo Switch is kind of sort of not selling as well. Even though today I just made a video talking about Nintendo Switch sales. But generally, I've refrained because it got annoying even to me. So to you guys, I'm sure it was like, oh my God, Rich, shut up again. It's sales figures.
Maybe like a mechanical or something.
This is a pretty interesting milestone for PlayStation and the PlayStation 4. And I feel it should be discussed.
I kind of want a new mouse because mine was like a
Sony
cheap
has
one.
come a long way from when they first
I've
announced
had it for like 3 or 4 years.
So in Sony's newest quarterly earnings report, they said that the PlayStation 4 sold 3.9 million units worldwide. Okay, that's fine. It's not a big deal. But that's not the big deal. The PlayStation 4 has now sold 86.1 million units worldwide. That the PlayStation 4 sold 3.9 million units worldwide. Okay, that's fine. It's not a big deal. But that's not the big deal. The PlayStation 4 has now sold 86.1 million units worldwide during its lifetime, which puts it at more lifetime sales than the PlayStation 3, which has sold 83.8 million units worldwide during its lifetime. And also keep in mind, too, the PlayStation 4 this November, well, it is November, but soon, in like the next couple weeks, will be just 5 years old. That lifetime sales for the PlayStation 3, it came out in 2006, and it was the main console from Sony until 2013. It was on the market for 7 years, so even over a longer period of time, it still didn't sell as much as the PlayStation 4 has sold worldwide. It's so interesting how things have changed. And yes, I'm going to give a retrospective right now, so go grab your coffee or a beer and listen to a fat man blabber on for
I wish I had a coffee.
amount of time. I remember when I went through my gaming hiatus phase, which I probably talked about 30,000 times on this channel. And I remember at my old job, there was this young guy there named Steve. Actually, he was older than me. Obviously he's still older than me now, but he looked like he was about 17. And he was obsessed with the Xbox 360 coming out. And even though I wasn't as big into
I'm
gaming
drinking every
back
now
then,
and then,
like I said,
but I've been waking up really early, or I've been up
PlayStation
around
3
this
is gonna
time
destroy the
lately,
Xbox
so like
360.
coffee is like really good around
And
this
he was
time.
like, no, you don't understand. Microsoft is really making an awesome console. You're sleeping on the Xbox 360. The PlayStation 3 isn't going to be that big of a deal. Sony's going to overhype it, and it's not really going to be any better. And I was like, whatever, man. I'm passive on video games now anyway. If it's better, it's better. If it's not, it's not. I don't believe you. I think the PlayStation 3 is going to destroy the 360. From what I heard, because I did hear things about the specs and the cell processor, and you had Ken Kutaragi overhyping the specs of the PS3. Even if you're a diehard PlayStation fanboy, you will say that the specs that Ken Kutaragi was talking about with like dual HDMI ports and all this other insane crap, it was way overblown. But I really thought that the PS3 was going to be, the console to get for the 7th generation. Then it was revealed, and the price point was revealed, and there were giant enemy crabs, and the launch of the PS3 was disastrous. It was way overpriced. The only game that was worthwhile to get when the system launched was Resistance: Fall of Man, and I remember a whole bunch of people
PS3 launch
including my
was
friend
like
Dan.
crazy.
Dan, I know you're probably
It
watching
cost
this.
so
I
much
see you,
money.
saying that the PlayStation 3, especially during like 2008, 2009 when I was talking to him, is the Sega Saturn of the 7th generation, or at the time he said the current generation. And it seemed like he was right. And I completely flipped the script, and I only had a 360 from 2007 until 2009. Then what sold me on the PS3 was I saw the gameplay for Killzone 2. And Killzone 2 to this day still looks impressive. I understand the lighting is baked in lighting. It's not dynamic lighting or dynamic shadows.
Yeah, that whole era of the PS3 fat was pretty bad.
I understand a lot of it's just artistry and
the price
pre-rendered,
point
but
was
it's still
insane.
a damn good looking game. And I
didn't
saw
get
that
one
on the
until the
PS3.
PS4 came
I've
out.
never seen a game look like that before, even on the PC at the time. And I'm like, oh my god, I need to get a PlayStation 3.
It was like semi-recent, like within the past
in my mind, that game
years.
even looks somewhat better than how my PC could play Crysis. I understand Crysis maxed out.
Metal Gear Solid 4, yeah.
But at the time, I was running an 8800 GT, and that wasn't playing Crysis maxed out, at least at a playable frame rate anyway. So what I did to get my PlayStation 3, because I was broke at the time, is I traded in a whole bunch of my retro crap, which was stupid, and I got myself a refurbished fat PlayStation 3, the one that looked like a George Foreman grill. My point being to that story is, actually I have a video of me unboxing that. I'll have a title card right here that I'll pop in later.
PlayStation 3 unboxing.
My point being to that story is, it was amazing how Sony was coming off the PlayStation 2, and you would think...
I've always kind of... Well, I really started collecting like 2011 or 2012. I've always had video games, but I didn't really start like ramping up my collection until around then.
Think they could do no wrong, and it's amazing how much people love the PlayStation 2. How if you screw up a launch of the system and you lose the love of the public, how much it could hurt your reputation and hurt your sales. And look, they were coming off the PlayStation 2, it's the best-selling system of all time, 155 million plus units sold. And then
speedrunning and stuff.
PlayStation 3, Ridge Racer, Giant Enemy Crabs, no third-party support when it first came out, and everyone's like, "Yeah, PlayStation's done." There were literally people
5-6 years
predicting
ago.
the doom,
probably 7 at this point.
of PlayStation. How do you go from the PlayStation 2, which could do no wrong, and Sony, who could do?
Geez, I got a lot of games for like $5 a piece, like Conker's, Star Fox, GoldenEye. Somebody gave me Majora's Mask. I got Ocarina of Time for like $10, the gold edition. I haven't really started on GBA, but 64 I have a lot. You'd be able to see it behind me, but my lights
do
off.
no wrong to the PlayStation 3. I literally felt like it was overnight. But Sony smartened up.
Those
Instead
boxes
of just
are really
giving up
nice.
on the PlayStation
I have a Paper
3,
Mario
they
complete.
made a slim model, which is more affordable and more
Japan
appealing,
version.
to be honest with you. Yeah, I got rid of the backwards compatibility, which sucked, but that's another story. They came out with AAA games like Killzone 2, like Uncharted 2, and
Yeah, they're really expensive.
Of other first-party games, which were excellent.
The box ones, yeah.
You know, which that came out towards the end of the life of the.
It's kind of weird because I like the Japanese boxes better. I don't think the US boxes are really.
And they had good games, a more affordable system, and in the end, Sony sales-wise went toe-to-toe with the 360. Like literally, they basically came out of the 7th generation with equal sales lifetime-wise. And you know, you would think though, even with Sony did make a comeback, but with how well the 360 was received during the 7th generation, that the Xbox One would have been a shoo-in. But for being the top dog for the 8th generation. But if you think about it, Microsoft did the same thing with announcing the Xbox One that Sony did, basically revealing the PS3. They botched the reveal. And once you lose the interest of the public, it's hard to make that comeback. I mean, Microsoft kind of did. They pulled it what Sony did with the PS3 with the Xbox.
Most of the time, you'll be able to buy a Japanese 64 box that's in a lot better condition than the US.
Xbox One, and Phil Spencer made it more about the gamer. Then they came out with the Xbox One X, and they focused more on games, and it made it more appealing to people. Granted, the Xbox One is still, actually will officially be in 3rd place. I think the Switch will eventually outsell it. But people look at the Xbox One and Xbox brand more favorably now than they did when the Xbox One was revealed in 2013. So it's so interesting how a company and a brand can instantly fall in favor and instantly fall out of favor just by one stupid PR mistake. But here we are now with the PlayStation 4, and from the get-go, before Sony even launched it, especially with how bad the reveal of the Xbox One was, Sony came out the gate swinging from day one, man. It was the console of choice. The sales numbers are still doing really well. When Microsoft was trying to do the whole thing with DRM and you couldn't just trade in your games or let friends borrow your games, Sony had that video basically mocking Microsoft and what they were doing with DRM and the Xbox One, showing here's how you could share your games on PlayStation 4. And they show the game being handed off to another person, and that video went viral and blew up, and Sony, for the PlayStation 4 or the 8th generation, became the belle of the ball. What a complete 180 from how people felt about the PS3 when it first launched. So it's a milestone to see the PlayStation 4 actually surpass the sales of the PS3. It was interesting to see how Sony salvaged the PlayStation 3, and the console did make a comeback and did become relevant. And it'll be interesting to see what happens
use it to watch TV.
5.
I don't even play games.
What is also interesting to see is if the PlayStation 4 could outsell the first PlayStation, which sold over 100 million units, and if it could outsell the PlayStation 2, which sold over 155 million units. I think there's a chance it could outsell the original PlayStation 2 with 155 million units. I don't see it. I could pretty much almost guarantee that it won't. Times were kind of different back then. There's stronger competition now. The PlayStation 2, in terms of marketing and games and sales, was well beyond anything I understand Xbox and Halo, but Microsoft just jumped into console gaming, so people were kind of skittish about the Xbox brand, and no one took the GameCube seriously. I understand it's going to make people angry, but the Switch is already outsold the GameCube. So need I say
I can't
more?
believe the GameCube
So that's why I
sold
think the
like
PlayStation 2
so
sold
bad.
so well. I just
It was
don't
probably
see
a better
PlayStation
number
4
back in the
doing
day,
over
but it still wasn't
155 million
considered a
units by the time next
huge
generation comes around
success.
with the PS5 and next Xbox. So it's interesting, man, how times have changed, and it's interesting to see the PS4 outsell the PS3.
Yeah, PS4 has like
and I'm
the most
very
and
curious
best
to see
exclusives,
how
I think.
sales do, or sales-wise, how well the PS5 performs when it's launched. And I'm very interesting to see what
Jeez.
Microsoft releases for their next-gen
I
system,
believe
too.
it because I think it mostly
Rich
sold
Review Tech
in the
USA
US and
signing out.
Japan.
Have a good one.
Like it only
Hey,
sold like 22
congratulations. If you
million.
made it to the end of the video, you should subscribe to Review Tech USA so you can
I'm
hear me
surprised it
blabber on
isn't,
some more.
like-
Also, too, starting this month.
Surprised the GameCube isn't worth more just because it didn't sell that well, so it didn't print that many. PlayStation Classic, what's on that?
This video is being brought to you by Cutting Edge Gamer. If you upgrade graphics cards often, Cutting Edge Gamer is the
Yeah,
perfect
I love my
option for
GameCube
you.
too.
Least the
It
newest
still has
graphics
some
cards
great
on the
games.
market, such as NVIDIA's RTX 20
I think
series
Melee
for a
almost
low
sold half
monthly
as many
payment. Click the
GameCubes
affiliate
that were
link
sold.
below in the
It was
description to find
pretty
out more.
close anyway.
Skip it up and that up.
So the PlayStation Classic is dropping in about a month, December
GBI.
3rd,
What is that?
2018. And
Action Replay got expensive. It was kind of hard to find anyway back in the day. I could never find one as a kid. Game Boy interface. I think I know what you're talking about. Oh, okay. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, the one that Nintendo, like the disc, it isn't that good, I don't think.
I never was really excited for it. I think these classic mini consoles are cool, but to be honest with you, I haven't even played
Yeah, the
the
video
NES and
quality's
SNES Classic that I own. And I think the
Yeah,
games
like,
on those
nobody
consoles are much better
actually
than the
uses
ones that
the
Sony are
disc.
offering with the PlayStation
How, I don't know how
Classic.
it turned out
but
so bad.
whatever, that's besides the point. Now, look, I know this story is a couple days old, but I thought the games lineup from Sony was so
I
ridiculous.
mean, I guess at least it
that
works.
I still wanted to
but,
talk.
like, I never thought the video quality was that good. I think even the Super Game Boy like plays the games too fast. Yeah, the original disc are like $60. What's crazy is I think I always see like the actual hardware, but I never see the disc with it.
Talk about it. So
It's like how
a
how does
couple days
one
ago,
get
Sony
made more than
finally
the other?
announced what games are going to be on the PlayStation Classic, and they're not.
Yeah, it plays
great,
the games too
They're
fast.
not
Super Game Boy 2 is
absolutely
apparently good,
awful,
but it's pretty expensive.
but they're still face palm work.
I think.
So here are the games that are going to be included on the PlayStation Classic. We got Battle Arena Toshinden. They're really including that with the PlayStation Classic. Cool Borders 2, Destruction Derby, Final Fantasy VII, Grand Theft Auto, Intelligent Cube, Jumping Flash, Metal Gear Solid, Mr. Driller, Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey, Rayman, Resident Evil Director's Cut, Revelations Persona, Ridge Racer Type 4, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, Siphon Filter, Tekken 3,
So with the
Tom
editing on
Clancy's
this
Rainbow
video.
6, Twisted Metal, and Wild Arms. Sony, where's Resident Evil 2? Where's Castlevania Symphony of the Night? I don't care that Castlevania Requiem was just released for the PS4. There's plenty of games. Final Fantasy VII is on the PlayStation Classic.
Puzzle Fighter.
You can't
yeah.
use the Castlevania Symphony of the Night has been on too many platforms. Final Fantasy VII has been on everything. It's been re-released a billion times. It's been milked to death. But that's on the PlayStation Classic. Where's Castlevania? Where's Klonoa? Where is Ape Escape? As a matter of fact, Super Metal Dave 64 has an awesome YouTube channel. I'll have a link to it below in the description if you want to check it out. He gave a list of games here that should have been on the PlayStation Classic. Here are the ones that he said: Castlevania Symphony of the Night, I just mentioned, Tomb Raider, Crash Bandicoot, Crash Team Racing, Silent Hill, Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy Tactics,
Chrono
Wipeout,
Cross.
and
Was
Ape
that actually
Escape.
good?
Sony, who the hell wants to play that awful fighter Battle Arena Toshinden?
Okay.
I had that back.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in either, because basically you can buy all those games on PS3 for like less than like half the price, I'm sure. And the PlayStation Classic doesn't come with a power cord. Which is crazy. So you have to buy that separate or hope you have one. I played a little bit of Chrono Cross, but I didn't really get into it. Yeah, same. I think it looks better on the CRT. On the original hardware. I mean, sometimes the emulation just doesn't run that well. The game list is pretty weird.
In the day
We
when I
could have
first
done
got a
better.
PlayStation, that was like a tech demo for what fighters could be. Now you have Tekken 3 on the PlayStation Classic, so kudos to you for that. That's a good fighter. But Battle Arena Toshinden is garbage. That's a terrible, terrible fighter. It was clunky. I remember even thinking back then, like, yeah, this game kind of sucks, but I guess it shows what they can do with the PlayStation. Hopefully, fighters will get better. And that's on the PlayStation Classic? Seriously? Now, Resident Evil Director's Cut is on there, the original Resident Evil, which I don't think that game receives as much love as it should. That's good, but Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo? Can you, I'm not saying that's a bad puzzle game, but that's just a filler game. Why not an actual Street Fighter game that was for the PlayStation 1? Why Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo? Oh, God. You know what I really think it is with the PlayStation Classic is that Sony semi-rushed it. And not that it's hard to make a little emulator box, which is all these little retro consoles are, whether it be the NES Classic, SNES Classic.
You think they would ask
PlayStation
like
Classic.
the community or something?
But they need to actually license these games. And if they were third-party games, it may take some time to license them. And Sony probably thought at the last minute, we should release a PlayStation Classic for the holiday season. All right, let's do it. Oh, crap, we need licenses from Capcom and Konami and so on and so forth. And not that they couldn't get them, but maybe they couldn't get them in time and get them ready for the PlayStation Classic in time for this holiday season. So they put some games on there that everyone's like, about, just so they could have filler. So they could say, hey, we got 20 games on the PlayStation Classic coming this holiday season. I'm speculating, but I guarantee you that is the reason why we're seeing this semi-mediocre, semi-lackluster list of games coming to this little retro console from Sony in December. And I don't know, man. They should have waited. They should have waited for maybe even 2019 to get a better roster of games. Or who knows, maybe they're going to do what I think they're going to do. Maybe they'll have a PlayStation Classic 2, not a PS2 Classic, another PlayStation Classic that will have another 20 games on it. It'll probably be a better list of games. So now you got to go out and buy 2 PlayStation Classics to get a better library of games. And it is what it is. I guess you could
I'm
say
sure
Nintendo's
people are gonna
doing the
hack
same
it, though.
thing because the NES and
Always
SNES
gets
Classic
hacked.
are just little emulator boxes that both have the same capabilities, just different rosters of games on them. So Sony's probably trying to do the same thing too, but they just could have picked better titles. Siphon Filter was a third-person action game. I remember
Alright. I don't know what else of his that I've missed out. Fox News. His room's too clean. He does have a very clean room. Yeah, it's gonna happen super fast. Somebody's probably like already planning. A lot of Blizzard and Red Dead Redemption news.
This video is being brought to you by
Okay,
Cutting
this is the
Edge
last two
Gamer.
videos
If
we'll
you upgrade
watch.
graphics cards often, Cutting Edge Gamer is the perfect option for you. Lease the newest graphics cards on the market, such as Nvidia's
So the
RTX
PewDiePie,
20
I
series
think I
for a
am.
low monthly payment. Click the affiliate link below in the description to find out more. Skip it up and that up.
Now,
I
I'm
like
sure
this channel.
many of you know, if you own a PlayStation,
It's how I get my gaming news half the
play
time,
games in
besides
general,
Twitter.
that Konami had a demo
Sometimes.
for
I-
their
it's not
now
really like a
canceled
go-to, but
upcoming
like-
Silent Hills game, which was dubbed PT on the PlayStation Store for the PlayStation 4, and PT
This is
actually
all his
stands
videos,
for
actually.
Playable Trailer. I didn't know
Actually,
that
don't
until I
play
started
this
doing
at all.
research for this
What else
video.
do
I
we
had
have?
no
Don't laugh at my subscriptions. Oh, did you guys hear about Square canceling all the DLC for Final Fantasy 15? Rich is pretty cool. I've been watching him for like 3 years. This YouTube channel is like 11 years old, so you probably see some crazy stuff on here. Yeah, look, there's a PewDiePie video. My wife uses my YouTube channel too, so who knows? I don't keep up with them too much, but like after I started playing Final Fantasy 7, I kind of did. And like sometimes things just happen and it just kind of like, I don't know. It was pretty big, like the director of that game left. I don't know what to watch. I haven't watched this channel in a while. What is this?
Hello and welcome to Did You Know Gaming Extra. In today's episode, we're looking at unreleased gaming hardware. When designing new hardware, a company has a lot to consider. Costs can ramp up dramatically throughout production, and some ideas may become impossible to implement. Some companies may aim to create one thing only to make something else entirely. With Nintendo, one of their most poorly received consoles was initially planned as something different. As a teenager, British technology pioneer Jeremy Jez San OBE founded
is
Argonaut
that face?
Software, a company known for not only creating classic games like Croc, but also for helping to develop the Super FX chip with Nintendo, resulting in the creation of Star Fox. In September of 2018, Jez spoke with news outlet Metro about how his company continued to work with Nintendo after the creation of the Super FX chip. He was tasked with working on the design of a VR-centric games console called the Supervisor. Speaking about the cancellation of the
played Croc.
Supervisor, Jez told Metro,
Should we play
I worked
that
on a
too,
VR
Sonically?
machine called the Supervisor for Nintendo, but unfortunately, we fell out. A guy called Mr. Gunpei Yokoi cancelled our project in favor of the Virtual Boy, which we used to call the Virtual Dog because it was so bad. Jez believed that Argonaut's VR headset was more powerful than the Virtual Boy, as it included both full color as well as head tracking in a time when no other device did. Jez claims that it was like the Vive headset that's on sale today, but made
Probably
20
not.
years earlier. Though he admits that, of course, modern screen technology is vastly superior to what was available back then. Jez believes that the Supervisor was killed off due to a climate of fear surrounding the gaming industry, as Nintendo had already been sued for issues such as repetitive strain injury or epilepsy triggers. He believes that the restrictive nature of VR, limiting a player's view, was likely to cause a number of lawsuits against the game's giant. After the system was dropped by Nintendo, Jez was approached by Hasbro, a company known for the creation
God,
of many
can you
popular
imagine a
toys.
64-bit
They intended to
VR
create their
system?
own virtual reality console under the codename Sliced Bread Project, also known as Toaster VR, and worked with Jez in order to optimize an ARM core processor to better handle VR. Throughout its development history, multiple names were picked for the system, including Escape and Rush. The project was plagued by the technical issues expected with the leap into the unexplored realms of VR gaming. It also had to be lightweight and cheap to make, only adding to the difficulties involved in the project. The main hurdles were creating an image which showed a realistic perspective to the user, as well as the latency between the user's head movements and the display. A prototype was assembled and developers began planning potential games, including large companies such as EA. According to one developer who worked on the system, by the summer of 1995, 5 games were demonstrated on the complete system of hardware and software, and tested by the 16-year-old son of one of the group leaders. The major contributing factor to the system's downfall came after a switch from cartridges to CD-ROMs, both delaying the system as well as doubling the company's estimated retail price. The previously mentioned developer also claimed that Hasbro's business plan anticipated sales reaching 2 million units in 5 years, and only achieving a 12% profit by
5
year
years.
4. The
Jeez.
company had already spent $45 million during the system's 3 years of development, and they were expecting to spend another $22 million on advertising. The decision to stop the project entirely was made by former Hasbro CEO Alan Hassenfeld. The company would create their own third-party game studio in Hasbro Entertainment towards the end of 1995, creating adaptations of their popular board games, as this was a much safer way of entering a market they had little experience in. But as the Toaster VR system was scrapped, so too were the games being developed for it. And now it's time for this episode's random piece of trivia. Today we're looking at Faceball 2000 for the Game Boy. This game is actually a port of an earlier released first-person
Mother 3. What don't we know about Mother 3? I'm open for videos if you guys have any suggestions, by the way.
Did you know? Mother 3 was conceived during a stressful period before Earthbound's launch. Series creator Shigesato Itoi believed that most RPGs were structured like road trip movies, and wanted to switch up the formula and set a game in a single town that changes over time. Itoi's first idea for a protagonist was a detective who'd solve crimes while living above a supermarket. The character would attempt to solve a murder, but could only progress by building relationships with the townspeople. Because of this, Itoi prized minor details. For example, a woman hanging out washing would be seen wearing clean clothes the next day. Shigeru Miyamoto compared the concept to that of Majora's Mask, which used a similar mechanic. Satoru Iwata, producer of the Mother 3 project, hinted that Itoi's pitch may have influenced Animal Crossing, which he described
Metroid. Episode 5, Jesus. Wait. Oh, I thought it was 5 parts to Metroid. I was about to say. There'll be Metroid music. Come down for that. If they actually did make one for Yoshi's Story, it would... Yeah, it'd be all about Dan. And then you and, I forget who the third person is.
Super
Dan
Metroid,
is Yoshi's
one
Story.
of Nintendo's most popular games since it came out back in 1994, it puts the player through an absolute adventure. You get dropped onto the planet Zebus and make your way underground, exploring a vast world of enemies, power-ups, and other oddities. Along the way, you fight several bosses, which test both the player's skill
Doesn't Artemis
and
run it
guts to
too?
push onward. Finally, at the end of it all is Mother Brain,
Or am I
an
thinking of the
extremely
wrong
difficult
person?
fight that lasts for several minutes, and then a final escape back onto the ship. Many gamers agree that this game is one of Nintendo's masterpieces. Its popularity has stood the test of time, and it's still commonly played today. As a way of honoring its greatness, for more than a decade, the group of
Is this
speedrunners
loud
have been
enough?
battling each other to beat it as fast as they can. It's been raced at Games Done Quick events, and thousands of hours have been poured into the streaming the game live on Twitch to either get a lower personal best or even lower the world record. In fact, Speedrun.com says that there's only 3 games in history that have been run more than Super Metroid. Given the game's legacy, the world record for this game has gone through many changes, whether it be new strategies or better execution. So, today, we're going to look at how the record for Super Metroid has gotten lower over time. One quick thing to note about this game, there are 2 ways of timing it, the in-game timer that you are presented with at the end of the game, and real time, which is a more traditional approach of timing the run from start to finish with a timer. Speedrunners originally used in-game time, since it was accurate and didn't require the hassle of setting a timer. This would eventually change, but I'll explain that later. We're going to start by going all the way back to 2004. Super Metroid speedrunner Smokey was able to get the first Super Metroid run with footage that still exists today, with an in-game time of 38 minutes, or 56 minutes and 22 seconds of real time. Here's how he did it. There are 4 major boss fights in this game before fighting Mother Brain: Kraid, Phantoon, Ridley, and Dragon. You can defeat these bosses in whichever order you want, as long as you defeat them all at some point. Smokey started off his run by heading into Brinstar and fighting Kraid. He was able to do a quick kill on Kraid by shooting him with his super missile when Kraid's mouth was like this, walking it into position, and finishing off the fight quickly. Normally, Kraid's fight could last over a minute, as you'd have to rise all the way up like this from the ground. With this quick kill, it was over in only about 10 seconds. Next, Smokey headed over to the wrecked ship and fought Phantoon. You can only hit Phantoon in his eye, and you can only hit his eye when it is exposed. Phantoon also likes to move around, a lot. Depending on what patterns he gives, this fight can either take a very long time, or be over fairly quickly. This fight ended up taking Smokey around 90 seconds. Then, Smokey went into Meridia to fight Dragon. Dragon is one of the most difficult sections of the game. She can either swoop down or do a mucus cycle. The mucus cycle is where she releases mucus and pretty much just wastes time, and the swoop is where she, well, swoops down. While Smokey didn't have a perfectly clean fight, it was certainly good enough given the time. Finally, the last boss that Smokey fought was Ridley, in Lower Norfair. Ridley can do a lot. He can go invisible, grab Samus, charge at her, go up and down, and of course, swoop across the screen. With a bit of luck and a lot of skillful execution, Smokey was able to defeat Ridley in about 60 seconds.
Just acorns falling on my shed in the backyard.
Kraid, then Phantoon, then Dragon, and then Ridley will be used as a template for how to go through the game as fast as possible for years. It became known as the KPDR route, taking the first letter from the name of each of the 4 bosses in the order that they were fought. After going through these 4 bosses, Smokey headed back up to the ship to get his energy back, and then headed over to fight Mother Brain. This fight has 3 forms. The first form is easy enough. You just break open the glass tank with missiles. Then, the second form appears, and the player first sees how big Mother Brain truly is. The best way to deal with this section is to just keep dealing charge shots directly at the Mother Brain's face, and dodge her attacks, some of which can kill you in one hit. Smokey did a beautiful job of this in his run. After this phase is a cutscene, and then the third and final form of Mother Brain, where you must deal as much damage to her as quickly as you can. Smokey's method of doing this was to just stand in the lower right corner of the screen and constantly land face shots. It worked well enough, and then all Smokey had to do was escape the exploding planet and get onto the ship. Since he was trying to optimize game time instead of real time, he called his run a 38-minute run. Smokey would eventually lower his time down to 36 minutes, but no footage of his later runs exists today. A couple of years later, in 2006, a runner named Garubo was able to beat Smokey's 36-minute run with a 34-minute run, and was planning to shock the speedrunning community with it. But right as he was about to submit it to the website Speed Demos Archive, where most speedrunners showed off their runs, he got a major surprise. A Japanese runner had already beaten him by 2 minutes, and had gotten a 32. This runner's name? Hodoruby. For anybody who hasn't heard of Hodoruby, he was one of the most legendary speedrunners of all time. He held the world record in Mario games, Mega Man games, several other games and franchises, and many of his records were unbeatable for years. There's not really much that I can say that would be enough to pay tribute to how amazing he really was. The way he got to 32 was mainly just by executing everything like a god. When the run came out, nearly everybody thought that it was fake. The time was just too low for it to be real. Here's an actual quote from the Speed Demos Archive verification team when the run was submitted. Hodarubi's level of play is so far beyond anything yet seen on the site that his run was stuck in verification for weeks while the verifiers tried to decide whether or not the video was legitimate. However, no evidence of foul play was ever found. And so today, on behalf of Metroid 2002/Speed Demos Archive, I am proud to present Super Metroid in 32, single segment. People use things like the fact that Hodarubi did arm pumping on a downward slope before Speed Booster to try and prove that the run was fake. Normally, arm pumping like that down a slope would interrupt Samus's running speed, but if these people had actually tested it for themselves, they would have realized that this only applies on certain slopes. The one before the Speed Booster was fine to arm pump on. Probably the best part of this run was at the end. Hodarubi knew that he had a 32 on lock, but also knew that he wasn't going to be fast enough to get a 31. So, just for the hell of it, he decided to save the animals. For anybody unfamiliar with what this is, during the final escape sequence, you can take this path into another room, and shoot this door behind a room filled with animals to save them. All this changes is at the end, you see a tiny pixel float off into the distance, which is supposed to be the animals that escaped. All in all, this wastes about 25 seconds, and is supposed to just be a meme done at Games Done Quick events sometimes. But no, Hodarubi decided that he would create a run so amazing that everyone thought that it was fake, and save the animals just to annoy everyone a little more. After this run came out, a couple of Super Metroid runners, Azor and 072, decided they wanted to try and beat Hodarubi's run by getting a 31-minute segmented run. As opposed to Hodarubi's single segment run, which is a traditional run completed from start to finish without stopping, a segmented run is a run completed in multiple segments. Runners can grind one segment over and over until they get it how they like, and then move on to the next one. Once they get a great run for each segment, they can piece them together, and it becomes known as a segmented run. People figured that this was probably be the only way to beat Hodarubi's 32. But then, Hodarubi just decided to get a 31 single segment run. And once again, people were completely in awe of his skill. One interesting thing that Hodarubi did during this run was decide to focus more on real-time strategies rather than game-time strategies. One such strat was the Murder Beam. This normally creates a vertical beam during Mother Brain 3 that continuously deals damage, but it is much slower for real time, about a minute slower. So he decided to not do it for this run. Amazingly, even though he decided to use real-time strategies, Hodarubi was still able to beat his old run in game time. Since he was going for real time, this run gradually stopped being referred to as a 31 and began to be called its real-time equivalent, a 49.25. For a few years, Hodarubi was completely untouchable. People began to race Super Metroid instead of going for the world record attempts, because they knew that nobody could possibly beat Hodarubi. As a result of those real-time races, the category universally began to be ran in real time, and the game time was pretty much completely thrown out. Eventually, in early 2012, runners finally were able to get sort of close to Hodarubi's run. 7 people, Garrison, MSDS, Cassius, DBX, Fusiana, Emodoran, and Hypo, were all trying to get their own sub 50-minute run. Eventually, 2 of these runners rose above the rest and got a sub 50, Fusiana and Emodoran. I was unable to find footage of these runs, but regardless, these 2 runners were close to doing the unthinkable, taking down Hodarubi's nearly perfect world record. Unfortunately though, neither of them were able to pull it off. They got close, but Hodarubi's run was just too good. It seemed like Hodarubi's record would stand for years more. But after Fusiana and Emodoran faded away from the Super Metroid community, another one of those 7 runners was able to pull off a sub 50, Garrison. Garrison streamed his attempts live on Twitch, so he was able to share his excitement with his viewers live as he slowly closed in on Hodarubi's record. After a steady series of improvements, Garrison was just a few seconds away from Hodarubi. Finally, on June 6, 2012, it seemed like he was going to beat it. It was going to be close, and it was all coming down to the final escape.
Are you kidding me, dude? TWR.
You tied?
His timer showed that he had beaten it by 1 second, but in reality, Garrison tried to go down into the ship too early, and stopped the timer then too. He actually went down about a second later, so he was officially tied with Hodarubi. But a week later, he had another chance.
that escape.
After having the record for 6 years, Hodarubi had finally been topped. It wasn't by much, and it was slower in the in-game timer, but Garrison had done what so many thought was impossible, taking the record from Hodarubi. Over the next few months, Garrison continued to run Super Metroid. The combination of better movement, better RNG, and slightly improved strategies allowed him to keep pushing his record time down lower. One such strategy was the full halfie, which allows the runner to skip the entire Coliseum. For months, Garrison and MSDS spent countless hours trying to figure out these new strategies, leading to Garrison calling MSDS the unsung hero of Super Metroid. Eventually, Garrison was able to push his time down all the way to 4750. But while Garrison was doing this, another Super Metroid player was quickly improving in the background, Cot Power. Originally a PAL runner, or a runner of the European version of the game, Cot Power became aware of the grind for the NTSC record after it was showcased at ESA 2012. He set out to improve his time. In mid-2012, his PB was 54 minutes. Just a few months later, he improved so much that he was able to take the record from Garrison out of nowhere, on November 3rd, 2012. For a few months after that, Garrison and Cot Power took turns lowering the record. Mostly, they just kept out-executing the other, but Cot Power also found a semi-consistent way to do an extremely difficult trick, the Big Metroid Skip, which allows you to skip getting grabbed by this Metroid at the end of the game, and save a few seconds. While Garrison and Cot Power continued to trade the record back and forth, a new runner, Zost, proved his skill and took it from them.
Crucify the animals.
Hell yeah.
Oh god. I really want to play this
pretty
game.
clear to
My
most
Super
that Zost was
Nintendo
a
doesn't
pretty big
work.
force to be reckoned with, and we'll get to Zost again later. But anyway,
I've
these
had
three
this game
kept
for like
trading the
6
record
years
back
and I've
forth,
always wanted to play
and
it.
once the time came down to
Just never got around to
45:36
it.
by Cot Power, it seemed as though the run was getting pretty close to the boundaries of what was humanly possible. New strategies were coming out all the time, but nobody could have expected what was coming next. On July 26th, 2013, Super Metroid fans woke up to find that the record had changed once again. Only this time, it wasn't Zost, Garrison, or Cot Power. It was by a speedrunner who didn't even stream on Twitch, Behemoth. This run was done thanks to a number of new strategies that he had figured out with the help of other runners in secret in a private thread.
I've heard
Some of these
speedrunners say
strategies
it's
included
basically the
climbing up
Mario
the red tower
64
super
of
quickly,
Super
similar to how
Nintendo
the
as far as
tool-assisted
movement
run did,
goes.
and defeating
Like
the
the
plasma
movement is super
pirates
good.
with a super bomb. This method of grinding strategies and getting the record offline became known as Behemothing, so one could say that Zost got Behemoth with this run. Zost got back to grinding, and using these strategies, he's able to get the record back from Behemoth a couple of weeks later. The chat was pretty excited, including this runner named Oats and Goats. Remember that name. At this point, the new strategies allowed for the time to come all the way down to a 44. Zost was the first one to get it, although runners Ivan and Krauser also were trying to get the record. These three runners and Garrison ended up racing the game at AGDQ 2014, and what has gone down as one of the greatest speedrunning races of all time.
Well, and
After that AGDQ, it was all Zost. He wanted to push the game as far as he could. The in-game timer was at a 29 still for all of his runs, and he wondered if maybe he could get it down
Zost
to a 28.
has such a comfy
He
stream.
pushed it more and more, and to his surprise, in August 2014, he got the 28.
Top 10 streams to fall asleep to be honest.
oh shit! Holy shit, dude!
The time of that run in real time was a 44:08. It seemed like that might be a fitting ending to the game speedrun. The game had started by being timed by in-game time, and while it had switched to real time, Zost had pushed the game time down as far as it seemed it could go in the process. But then Zost got Behemoth again. For the past 10 years, or maybe even longer, runners have been following the same route that Smokey did at the beginning of the video. Crave first, then Fantoon, then Dragon, and finally Ridley. In early 2014, Behemoth began to search maybe there was a faster route through the game. He looked with Reeve, Forensic, and even Smokey, who was one of the first runners to use the KPDR route. And after a few months of searching, and a few more months of practicing and working out quirks, Behemoth had himself a new route to use. Phantoon first, then Ridley, then Kraid, and finally Dragon. This route ended up having a huge potential to save time. If executed correctly, and given great RNG, it could save up to 100 seconds of real time, although it would lose 2 minutes of game time, but nobody really cared about game time. While the minute and 40 seconds of gain seemed fantastic, the only problem is that it's harder. A lot harder. And the luck required with the boss's patterns to get all 100 seconds is pretty unlikely. Still, that didn't stop Behemoth from behemothing Zost once again, and taking his record by 20 seconds with this new route just 5 days after Zost got to 4408. The reaction to this new route being discovered was overwhelmingly
Guys, I really want to do a 24-hour marathon again.
The potential to lower the record was
It's
great.
been a couple years
so
since
Zost
I've done
and
one.
Behemoth got to work, slowly executing the route better and better, and getting better RNG.
In there. Hell yeah. Not bad, not bad.
Do it now.
Hell yeah. No steam. Still got it.
Maybe in December.
Oh, God, what a nail biter.
I was looking at my splits for Mario 64.
Fuck.
My sum of
By
best for 70
mid-2015,
star is
it
already
was pretty clear that
like,
Zost
in
was just a
58.
complete god at Super Metroid.
If I can knock it down to
Pushed it
57,
more and
maybe
more,
I should do
simply
that.
by executing the route better, getting better RNG, and by being Zost. The month of October 2015 was pretty solid for Super Metroid. Zost got a new record of 42:32 on October 10th. 8 days later,
Also when
he took
Ultimate
2
would be
seconds
out.
off of it. The next day,
So
he
you
took
could-
another 2 seconds off. 3 days
It
later,
would kind of be like
another
that one
3
time I
seconds
did a
came off.
24 hour. I
And
did like
finally,
8 hours
4
of
days
Mario
later,
64 and
on
I just
October
played Smash
26th, took
online with
13
people for
more
like 10
seconds off.
hours.
What we got? Holy! Woo! 42:13. Whoa! That's a 28, my friends.
He improved the Super Metroid record 5 times in 1 month, and took half a minute off the record in process. Zost seemed to be the undisputed champion of Super Metroid speedrunning. But do you guys remember that guy Oats and Goats I was talking about?
Yes! Woo! Yes! Yes! Woo! Yeah, dude, we got it! Dude, yes! Yes! We fucking got it!
After having steadily improved his own personal best for months, Oats and Goats was able to take the world record from the legendary Zost by a few seconds. The time was down to a low 42, so naturally, as all speedrunners would do, everyone was anticipating the 41-minute time. Zost and Oats both wanted it, so they both started grinding it. Zost wasn't streaming attempts quite as often, but Oats was streaming 41 attempts nearly every day. Ultimately though, Zost was the first one to find success. He started by tying Oats 42:10, then lowered the record by 5 seconds a few months later.
I'm probably going to bed after this
September
one.
2016, he did it. He got a 41:58
Oh, you have some
offline,
videos?
and
We
then
can watch
replayed
them.
it on his stream. But Oats wasn't
I'll
about
probably
to give
stay
up.
up for another
He knew that he
little
had the
bit.
skill to get the record back, so he kept pushing forward, even though it was incredibly frustrating sometimes. And then, on October 18th, 2016, everything was coming together. He cleared boss after boss, difficult section after difficult section, and then it was on to the escape.
Not looking. Not looking.
God, this chair hurts sometimes.
That's it, baby. That's it. Yeah. Woohoo! Oh yeah.
Zero Suit Samus cosplay. Wow.
That's it.
And as of February 2017, that's where the world record stands. Super Metroid has been on the forefront of the speedrunning community ever since speedruns were even a
I
thing.
need a better one
It's
for
been
sure.
one of the most coveted records, and every time the record has changed hands, it's brought in a wave of
I had an
attention
older
to
chair
the
that
game
was
and
really
to the
good.
runners. This
Like,
game
I don't know
requires
what
so
happened
much,
to it. I think I
an
gave it to
insane
my
amount of
mom or
skill,
something.
a ton of RNG, and a seemingly endingless amount of patience and persistence. While the record keeps getting so optimized, who knows what new strategies will be discovered, or if Behemoth will do his thing again and completely revolutionize the game. Although, he does stream now, so it's unlikely that he would find it in secret. This game has a long and treasured past, and it's sure to have a thrilling future as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.
You can link the videos in the chat if you want to. I am soon. Sonacy has some videos for us. This guy doesn't really upload that often. This Mario Kart Wii history has a ton of views. I want to see something too. What's it called? Pillar Skip? What's it? I was trying to do this earlier. I don't think it's called Skip.
Hey there everybody, this is a tutorial for the pillars jiggy, jumping up the pillars. This jiggy is kind of hard for new players because you got some fine jumps to make it up to the top. So basically what you want to do is get in Talon Trot, and what you want to do is when you're jumping off these pillars, you want to jump about
pays
right
off, though.
here. So like kind of off the side. You don't want to jump too low, but you want to jump like kind of as far as you can without going down the slope. So it kind of looks like this. And then just flat flip at the very height of your jump, so before you go down, and then quickly do your beak bust without losing too much height. If you beak bust too early, it'll look something like this, and you'll just fall down before you actually get up there. So the first one you can just rat-a-tat to, no big deal. And then from here, it's just flatter, beak bust, and then you want to do it again, flutter, beak bust, without losing any height though, like I did. That was also a bad angle. So again, beak bust, or not beak bust. You kind of also want to jump to the corners too, because you can see that the corner sticks out further than the sides. So if you jump towards the corners, you get a little bit more. Now this last one here, if you fail, you take damage when you fall, so you kind of want to make it as close as you can.
Jeez.
But once you get up, you get to enjoy the jiggy and then the sweet embrace
I'm
of
gonna
death.
practice that at some point. Alright.
Hello, this is Tim Rogers, and you are watching Kotaku.com.
Oh, I remember this. This is really good.
Final Fantasy VII was released 20 years ago. I lived in Japan for 10 years.
I probably will
Shortly after
sleep
that,
after.
you can live in Japan for 10 years too. Just go there and then stay
should do
there
this
for 10
more
years.
often.
I'm playing Final Fantasy
is fun.
VII in Japanese for the first time. This is part 5 of my series comparing the Japanese and English scripts. I'm noticing a trillion
Did you
tiny
mean to
little
send me part
differences.
5?
I'd like to share a billion of those with you. Unfortunately,
I
I
don't
only
think I
have time
watched
to
all
share a
of these.
million, so let's get to it. First off, I'd like to thank our friends
no
at
way I watched all of
thelivestream.net
these.
for providing the English footage. When we last left Cloud,
I don't
Barrett,
know,
and
dude.
Tifa,
Okay, I
they
looked at the
stood
bottom
before
and it was like,
Shinra
I
Tower
don't know.
on the verge of a groundbreaking, landmark video game set piece. They're here for revenge and to rescue Arisu from an experimental laboratory. Barrett, being a lovable optimist and now apparently a Buddhist, must believe pretty strongly in karma because he's willing to bet on the group's safety if they rush in the front door. Tifa suggests a more tactical alternative. Take the stairs. You literally climb 60 flights of stairs. This was incredible in 1997. 60 flights of stairs with no battles, just a whole darn bunch of dialogue, in which Barrett bickers with Tifa about the stupidity of the stairs. If you study the Japanese version, Tifa will teach you a dozen different ways to say shut up. Spoilers, the easiest one is urusai, which amounts to you just literally speaking the adjective noisy by itself. However, I want to zero in on one particular line. Barrett, tired from climbing 50 flights of stairs, exaggerates his exhaustion as being tantamount to a near-death experience. He soliloquizes to his far-off daughter Marlene, whose name is actually Marin in Japanese, by the way. Marlene, Daddy wanted to see your face one more time. To which Tifa replies, Tifa, come on, buddy. That ain't cool. In Japanese, Barrett's soliloquy reads pretty much exactly the same. Tifa's response, however, is Engi demonai koto iwanai no. Engi demonai koto iwanai is an idiomatic expression. We can only interpret one meaning from it, therefore. It means don't say such a thing. The emphasis is on the word engi demonai, which means something which is not a sign of good fortune. You use this idiomatic expression to tell someone they're being pessimistic, and that such pessimism is the root of misfortune. I'm going to guess that the translator didn't have the same idiom dictionary in 1997 that I bought when I moved to Japan in 2001. Maybe that dictionary hadn't even been published yet. Shinra Tower is dense and huge. A lot happens in here. There's drama, intrigue, mystery, battles, puzzles, plot revelations, and character development. I'd end
they're
up
all pretty
literally
good.
50 years old if I took the time to
I don't
answer
remember where I
everyone's
stopped.
questions about Shinra Tower.
I
So
have
in the
a
interest of
feeling you
fairness,
said we're
let's
gonna
focus
watch
on
these
the
on stream
following
or something.
idiotic things that I personally find hilarious. Our heroes, in order to eavesdrop on a Shinra board meeting, must enter an air duct by first summiting a toilet. In English, the dialogue box before the toilet contains a comedy option. Flush. In Japanese, it's either more or less comedic depending on your personal taste. The option is kitanai kara nagasou ka. It's dirty. So shall we flush it? Right there, in plain Japanese, is a clear indication there's probably a turd in the toilet. Or maybe it's urine, I don't know. There is excrement of some sort inside this
Yeah, I
toilet.
saw that. Is
I
he still,
can't
like,
overstate how big
creating
of a
these?
discovery this is for me. Well, it's probably not as big a discovery for me as it was for Cloud. Kaboom, great joke.
Or is that
I
the
find
final
this
part?
perfectly hilarious. It's an option in a menu, though it's unlikely that the game is insinuating that the characters are having this conversation. It's like the game itself is having this conversation with Cloud as he has it with himself. Also, whoa, they just have one restroom. It must be gender neutral. That's progressive.
Oh,
Way
wow.
to go, Japan. On floor 66, we meet Midgar's mayor, a man whose name is Domino. The game is unclear whether that's his first name or his last name. Domino's assistant, who is standing outside of the mayor's office, is named Hart in English. Well, in Japanese, his name is Hato. Hart would be Hato. So it's clearly Hato in Japanese, which is either hat or hut. So like, look, these two guys are named Domino and Hut. And Barrett previously referred to Midgar as a pizza. The city of Midgar is literally a circle divided into 8 triangular segments. The city is, in fact, a pizza, and the creators of the game are acknowledging this. So, yes, it's Mayor Domino's Pizza and his assistant Pizza Hut, both chains that deliver pizza in Japan. The translator really missed the reference. Maybe the dairy farm he grew up on was too far away for delivery from a Domino's or Pizza Hut. And by the way, if you wanted to say Pizza Hat in Japanese, because why wouldn't you, it'd be pronounced exactly the same way as Pizza Hut. Pizza Hatto, Pizza Hatto, because Japanese has exactly 5 vowels. Before you say,
well, English only has 5 vowels.
Just stop, man. Watch the classic Academy Award-winning film My Fair Lady, in which the character Professor Henry Higgins illustrates that English has approximately 130 vowels. Japanese has a, I, u, e, o. English is like a, I, u, u. If you speak English, congratulations, you have like 125 vowels too many. In an experimental laboratory where we rescue Arisu, we meet Red 13, a talking monster of some sort. He's a test subject and is not attached to the name Red 13, so he lets us name him whatever we want. Here I just want to point out that the Japanese name entry character set includes one Roman numeral, 13, as a single letter, simply for the purpose of naming this character.
Neat.
Our escape attempt gets our heroes into trouble. They get thrown in jail. Along the way,
yeah,
we
they
learn
do
that
say
Arisu
English is
is
like the hardest language to learn out of all of
the true
them. If
masters
you
of
don't
the planet
speak it
way back
already.
in forgotten times. Well, in the
So
middle
I
of the night,
believe that.
Sephiroth shows up, unlocks Cloud's jail cell, and kills everyone in the building. A scene of masterful environmental storytelling ensues. Sephiroth has killed the president of the Shinra Company. The president's son Rufus shows up on a helicopter. Before we go out to meet Rufus, each of our characters has a quip. They relate rumors they've heard about Rufus. I like Arisu's. I've heard that no one's ever seen him bleed or cry. The Japanese possesses a minuscule difference in nuance, which is a good example of how one goes about being effortlessly, naturally funny in Japanese. Chi mo namida mo nai, so kiita koto aru kedo. Super literally translated, that's, I've heard he has neither blood nor tears. Again, this is very subtle. I wouldn't even call it a difference. I might not have even translated it this way if I were translating this game myself. It's just, this is the cool way to say that in Japanese. Cloud battles Rufus while his friends escape. They regroup at the bottom of the tower. Barret, Tifa, Arisu, and Red 13 boost a little tiny pickup truck. Cloud hops on a motorcycle and follows in an action game sequence that is incredibly hard to play if you forget to turn off the PlayStation 4 version's 300% speed boost function. Right before this, we get to see a cutscene. You know, when I first saw this cutscene, there was no way to rewatch it. There was no YouTube, there was no OBS. There was no Game Capture HD. All I had to do was wait 20 years, and now I can drop this scene into Adobe Premiere and step frame by frame in super slow motion through the sweet, gratuitous shot of Cloud descending a staircase in a motorcycle. Our heroes evade their motoring pursuers and decide to leave Midgar to find Sephiroth. Our heroes have an extremely big moment here at the gates of Midgar. We've spent the first lush, dense, character-packed 10-ish hours of this massive video game in this Blade Runner pizza metropolis. This will be our first time stepping out into the Japanese role-playing game world map. We get to talk to each of our characters on the way out. Right here, Arisu calls Cloud bodyguard in English. She'd called him this earlier in Shinra Tower. In Japanese, she refers to him as Nandemoya-san. Demo, Nandemoya-san ga issho dashi ne? Let's explain that. Nan or nani means what. Demo is a particle that indicates, well, it's complicated. Though if you add it to nan, you get nandemo, which means anything, or sometimes it means everything. Ya is a suffix to place after the name of a type of item, making it a blank shop. Niku is meat, Nikuya is meat shop. San is a polite way to call someone Mr. So Arisu calls Cloud Mr. Everything Shop. We can translate Everything Shop as Jack of all trades. This is a reference to the first significant conversation the two of them ever had, back in the church in the slums. Arisu had asked Cloud what he did, and he said a little bit of everything. She giggled. She refers to him as Nandemoya-san throughout the rest of the game. So here at this emotional moment, in Japanese, Arisu is calling back to their first conversation. I'm just gonna say that's pretty sweet. Romantic.
Nice.
After a quick walk in the
This
fields,
game is
we
so
arrive
good.
at Kalm, a town that looks kind of like it was from a prototype of a different game. I love it. I love this about Final Fantasy VII. They apparently just made a whole bunch of art and then made a game out of it. I promise I'm not even being snippy when I say that. Our group meets up at the inn in Kalm for a well-deserved rest. Man, I'd stay at this inn. I'd live there. While at the inn, Cloud tells Barret, Tifa, Arisu, and Red 13 everything he knows about Sephiroth.
Same.
His recollection centers on an interactive flashback to an incident that occurred 5 years ago when Sephiroth and Cloud stopped at Cloud's childhood home, Nibelheim, to investigate a monster disturbance.
I haven't
This is the
played it
story of the
in,
day that
like,
Sephiroth went crazy, burned down a village, killed a bunch of people with
3
his sword,
years.
and disappeared from the face of the planet. This flashback, like Wall Market and Shinra Tower, is
Yeah,
a
it's been about
landmark
3 years
video
since
game
I've
set
played it.
piece. This is, I'm gonna say, probably the most important and structurally interesting scene in the whole game. We are going to replay this flashback several times later in the game, each time learning new details. Based on the comments I've gotten on these videos, everyone knows the story of the game already, so I'm going to spoil it. Cloud is lying. Cloud was not a first-class soldier. He was the scrub in the helmet who was getting motion sick on the truck. We're going to find this out much, much later in the game, and it will be presented in a positively Hitchcockian fashion. Cloud narrates the flashback while the player plays it, and the other characters in the inn at Kalm in the present-day timeline interject with questions. One splendidly playful moment is when the player directs Cloud to enter Tifa's house. Tifa then asks, Cloud, did you really go into my house? If you say yes, you get to keep looking around. I love this part. You can go into Tifa's room, open her dresser, and take out an item the English version calls orthopedic underwear. Tifa is then like, Cloud, did you really do this? And you have the opportunity to say yes or no. She responds with identical exasperation no matter how you answer. In Japanese, this item is called chotto senobi pantsu. Chotto means a little bit, or slightly, or somewhat. Se means back, like the part of your body. your back. Nobiru means to stretch, so senobi means to stretch your back. Most specifically, it indicates the sort of back stretch you would accomplish when standing on your tiptoes. Pantsu means pants in the British sense. It means underwear. The translator seems to have interpreted the exact wording, little bit backstretch underwear, to mean that this garment's purpose is as some sort of spinal appliance, which stretches the wearer's back to correct some difficulty. Hence, orthopedic underwear. This is wrong, yet hilarious. And great. To describe something as a little bit senobi is to compare the thing to the actions of a child standing on their tiptoes, trying to appear taller, bigger, older, more mature. This is Cloud's memory of something that happened 5 years ago. He's looking back on it now, and he's thinking, those underwear were a little bit senobi. He's naming the item of the past while remembering it in the present. Though, heck, he probably thought it then, too. In other words, Tifa, aged 16, was 5 years ago wearing the sort of underwear you'd expect a fully grown adult woman to wear. So what kind of underwear is that? Sexy ones? They probably weren't sexy. I'm imagining they were like granny panties. Oh, wait, look at this image, courtesy of our friends at thelifestream.net. Thanks again for all your help, by the way, friends at thelifestream.net. This image comes from the item gallery on the bonus disc of the Final Fantasy VII International version released in Japan. It looks like Chotto Senobi Pantsu means sexy granny panties. So, is this Final Fantasy? Or Spinal Grantasy? Spinal Pantasy? Sephiroth finds a room full of Mako pods in which monster humans are mutating. Sephiroth sees the word Genova written above the door and, remembering the name of his mother, realizes that he too was probably made via a similarly sinister method. He goes nuts. He holes himself up in the biggest house in town. He reads a bunch of books. He decides to burn the village down. He kills everyone in the town, including Tifa's dad. Tifa takes Sephiroth's sword and attacks him in vain. Cloud moves her limp body aside. He rushes into the room. Sephiroth hugs his alien robot mom. Cloud vows vengeance. This scene. Then Cloud's story ends. Somehow Cloud survived. The newspapers said Sephiroth died. 5 years later, Sephiroth is back. The English translation does a pretty good job communicating Sephiroth's personality up to this point. He's not a totally aloof,
Does he play like a
hard-butted
mod of the
way Cloud
PC
was
version?
at the
Because the
beginning of
PC
game.
version
He's got
has
some
those
charm.
weird mouths.
During the scene in the library, before his rampage, Sephiroth snaps.
I don't see
Cloud
him getting
enters
this
the room
quality
and
off of a
Sephiroth
PS1.
yells, "Who is it?" Then, acknowledging Cloud, he says, traitor. This confuses Cloud, who asks for clarification. Sephiroth explains that the humans stole the planet from the alien race who first populated it. He names himself the Revenger of the Dead Aliens, and declares all humans traitors which must be punished with death. I find no issue with the English translation, actually. I just want to point out that in Japanese, the most absolutely vanilla word possible for traitor is uragiri, which is literally the kanji for back and the kanji for cut. What I'm saying is, the default Japanese word for traitor is literally backstabber. Sephiroth is calling Cloud a backstabber. Sephiroth, buddy, you know what I always say? Don't knock it till you tried it. Will Sephiroth ever try it? Perhaps we'll find out in a
thrilling future episode.
You sword cowboy.
Hello, this is...
That's pretty good. Should watch this whole thing on stream one day. I think I'm gonna go to bed for right now though. I've been up for a little while. I appreciate you guys stopping by and hanging out. Sona C, Lovebot. Yeah, we should definitely just watch the whole thing on stream one day. Oh god. Well, I'll probably see you guys tonight. I'm out. Thank you, Lovebot. Yeah, I'll be around too. So like, I might be on tonight. Hopefully. We can play some more Resident Evil or something. Oh, peace out, guys.